All right, welcome to something a little different for the channel. We have a microphone review. When it comes to VR, adding additional audio solutions, it's less simple than normal gaming by the very nature of being active. Take this microphone I have right here. It's good. It's great for when talking and casually gaming at my monitor, but it's only good when I'm at my desk and facing one way. If I'm all the way over here, it doesn't really sound like that good of audio now, does it? So no matter how good the mic is, I can't use something like this for enhancing my VR audio, and so your options to improve it shrink drastically. That is where the subject of today's videos enter the picture. We have, number one, the Antlion Modmic Wireless, which I have in my hands right here, and we have the Modmic USB, which is what is being used and on my headset at this second. Just a little disclaimer. Modmic Wireless? I bought this with my own money. Whereas the Modmic USB, it was sent to me by Antlion for review purposes. There weren't any terms or conditions, they're not seeing this video beforehand, so I'm just giving my thoughts like I would on anything else. Before we get into the key differences of these models though, let's go over some common points and why you would even want some of these. Most VR headsets nowadays have a perfectly fine, if not great, microphone. Take for example the Crystal Super microphone right here that you're hearing at the second. It's fine. It'll work for multiplayer games without making anyone's ears hurt, and people understand what you say. And I wouldn't say upgrades feel needed for that casual kind of stuff, but take something like social VR or content creation, what I'm doing now, people would often value crisp audio there, and so you run into the already stated problem about so few options. I mean, what would you rather listen to? This? Or the USB 2 right here? I sure know my preference. Now, setup-wise, the Modmics come with ×2 of these tiny little magnetic clasps here. I have bought quite a few extra, and a few extra sticky pads on the back of them. They attach to your headset by you just press it onto the side where there's anywhere good to adhere it to. Leave it for a little bit, about 10, 20 seconds or so, then let go and leave it on for a while to properly attach. It's best for at least several hours, but ideally overnight, then you can use it without worry. It's all very simple, and there's also no additional software needed. If you need more clasps, you can buy more for about $12 on Amazon for it has a 3-pack. I do kind of wish these came with one more for the price, but they do have the extra sticky pads if you need to move it around a bit, I guess, and most people probably aren't going to be using like a ton of headsets. They also both come with their own little carrying case, though the wireless is slightly bigger than the USB 2s if you do need to bring them anywhere or store extra clips. I do like it. For both mics, I see people tend to have it pointed more towards themselves instead of held slightly parallel, kind of like what I'm doing. This may be something that varies with your voice. I do recommend you experiment, but as somebody who has a naturally very loud voice to where I've been told more than once I'm the only person someone has ever had to turn down in voice chat, if you're somebody who has a loud voice, I don't recommend having these pointed towards your mouth any more than I have right now, because I tended to get issues with lower quality audio or peaking when I was getting particularly vocal. Though the latter happens a lot more on the Modmic Wireless, the more recent USB 2 handles it vastly better. Conversely, with the Modmic Wireless, it's not terrible, but you can hear the audio sometimes slightly distort. Now that said, this is where things diverge based on your chosen model. Let's go over the Modmic USB 2 first, as this is what you are presently hearing. However, this is with some EQ I have applied and is not raw audio. Here are my settings on screen. I run at 70 volume in Windows, but be aware this can and will depend greatly on your voice, so you may not want to just copy my settings. Alright, now you're hearing the raw audio for the USB 2 without any filters or extra EQ. So you're fine with this stock, but if you are a power user, EQ will really draw out its potential. While we have EQ off, let's talk about the sensitivity, because this mic is quite sensitive to background audio. Case in point, here is my controller. Let's press a few buttons on it and the grip button a couple times. This is enough. I think it could distract your teammates a little, but in a game with something other than silence, like my voice right now or game audio, it's present, but it's not horrible. So let's try with my filters that include noise suppression. And look at that. While I'm not speaking, the button presses are practically gone. While speaking like this, yeah, you can still hear them. It's maybe a little bit better, not that significant. But the important thing is in silence, you're not going to bother anyone since most people are not speaking 24/7. Connectivity-wise, it does connect via USB-A, but it has a USB-C to USB-A adapter inside the box, and you don't need USB 3 for this either. USB 2 is perfectly fine. The cord is decent length, and it can be a bit unwieldy to cable manage for VR, but since it's so thin, it's actually not so bad, although I recommend to manage it with something like Velcro or cable ties. While this may not be practical on every headset because of the USB requirements, there are several which do have USB ports that make good use of this, like the Pimax Crystal Super I have right now. I did have to buy an extra adapter in that case. You can kind of see it right around here, but you don't need that if you were to run it on the bottom port here. In this case, the USB port over here is kind of recessed, so it doesn't quite fit. The mic itself is on an adjustable wire right here that you can bend to get the exact position you want, but it's not that adjustable. There's also the actual clasp right here where the magnet is mounted, but here I do have some criticism. It feels kind of flimsy and annoying to work with. I would unscrew it to show how the inside looks and how to mount it, but when doing that before, the magnet actually fell out and it took me over 30 minutes to get it back in place with how small it was. I was actually worried I might have broken it at first. So I don't really like the mechanism all that much. It keeps it lower profile versus the Modmic wireless, but it kind of feels a bit cheap, and if you do have to move the mic forward or backward, I just try to mount your magnets accordingly so you don't have to do that. Audio quality, though, I think speaks for itself, and that's the main selling point, so we don't gotta go over too much of this. Not much more to say. Let's talk about the Modmic wireless now. And now we have a classic for VR, the Modmic Wireless. This has been popular with VR content creators for ages, and for a very good reason. Right now, you're hearing this one without any form of EQ applied. The only thing I've done is drop my volume down to 63 in Windows, because loud voice! This, by nature of being wireless, does have some more complexities to cover. First, there is the connectivity. This uses a dedicated dongle to ensure the lowest latency possible. It's basically a non-issue and nothing to worry about, I find, despite the wireless. The dongle does have colored light indicators on it, blue for being connected and red when being muted. You can actually see the blue, it's just like on the Modmic right here. And these are nice, but like they don't really matter in VR since you're going to be wearing your headset here. You're not going to be seeing those lights. But this should work out of the box. Just turn the Modmic on and press the button here, right here, and you're good to go. But if you do ever run into connection issues, just hold the button and then the dongle's button for a few seconds till they both rapidly blink blue, and it should repair. The side button here is also how you mute and unmute. Like if you hold the button for a few seconds like this, you should have seen that red light appear, indicating that the mic is muted. Not that, again, you're never going to see this in VR. It does make it for a lot more easy operation, though, than the mute button on the USB 2, which is kind of covered in the back over here right now on my headset. But at the same time, you do got to be careful since that one button handles multiple functions, and if you do end up holding it for more than like 2 seconds, you can put the headset in pairing mode and lose audio, or just turn it off. The mic itself has a claimed 12-hour battery life, which I've not been able to stress test, but I do believe it's stupid long anyway, as charging's never been a problem on this. It does charge with micro USB though, which it does suck in 2025, but when you charge, it gets a yellow light on it that it'll be flashing when charging and solid yellow when fully charged. Unlike the Modmic USB, this has 2 modes. The first is omnidirectional mode, which you're hearing right now. Pretty nice, but by virtue of picking up everything around you, it's sensitive as hell and is going to pick up sound everywhere. Case in point, I am just clicking the grip button on my controller and this is already picking up a lot. You will bother your teammates with this. I think it's a little bit more sensitive than the USB. But this mic has a unidirectional mode that'll only pick up audio from the side facing your mouth, which should help with this in theory. This can be switched to with a little toggle on the mic itself. Let's check it out now. So, as you can hear, the audio on this mode is worse than the omnidirectional mode, but it's still not bad. However, let's do the noise test again to see if it really makes a difference. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit better, but I still wouldn't really consider it a solution. The unidirectional mode, in my opinion, doesn't really have much of a point to it since it's worse audio quality, and just doesn't change the background noise enough to warrant using. So, let's go back. What you're hearing now is the omnidirectional mode with some EQ I've applied. Same filters as with the Modmic USB 2, but my tri-band equalizer is different. Settings are on screen right now. With some EQ, you can really bring out the potential in this thing and create some truly great audio that is definitely way better than stock. I also have some noise suppression on, so let's test that out real quick. Alright, so as you can hear, when it's quiet, you don't really get a whole lot there. But when I start talking, you do hear some sound. It's not awful, and generally background audio, like say a game or other people talking, largely do muffle it, but it is kind of there. I've also tried NVIDIA Broadcast as well, but didn't have a whole lot of luck there either. I actually think I prefer RNN noise if you have the CPU room to spare, since Broadcast just doesn't seem to work very nicely with my voice. It's livable though, and you're not going to be bothering your multiplayer teammates unless you are the annoying streamer talking 24/7. Okay then, now that we've tried both, let's go back to my USB 2 to discuss conclusions, alongside the value proposition and which, if any, you may want. Pricing wise, these ain't cheap. The USB 2 comes in about $100, while the wireless is around $150 before any local taxes. These are in the US though, and according to Amazon price history, they've gone up by about 10% recently, so I think it includes the tariff tax. Now, that isn't cheap, but if you compare it to what a low to mid-range USB might cost, like say the Blue Yeti, the Elgato Wave, or the HyperX Quadcast, I actually don't think it's that out of line. I don't think these quite match what you can do on some of those, but especially with a little EQ, it's pretty great. Just for comparison, here is my Blue Yeti Nano on the crisp and warm preset in the Logitech G Hub software, and you can compare it to the Modmic USB 2 I have right now. And when you consider the convenience of these, of being able to slap it on a headset, especially VR headsets, I don't think it's out unreasonable. It actually stacks up pretty well. Now, the USB 2 is unquestionably the better audio of the two here, which makes sense because it was released in 2024, while the wireless was released in 2018. Tech moves. However, when it comes to VR, that means a lot more restrictions since it is tethered. You do need a USB port, which not many PC VR headsets have. Headsets like the Quest do have one, but then that takes up your charging port, so your battery life is going to be short. Trying to cable manage it can also be a bit of an annoyance, though. Again, it is short and you can wrap it up and around your headset somehow, but then it kind of hangs awkwardly to one side too, unless you go out of your way to cable management like I have. I have this cable protector. I stuffed the cord up alongside the VR headset's cable, and it blends in quite nicely. Downside to this, though, is that you do have to have it stuck in to here, because removing it to put on another headset, it's a real pain. I would not recommend this if you're going to be somebody that swaps headsets regularly. This is best for using one headset you plan to main. This is not going to be leaving my Super till something replaces it, though, because I love the USB 2 and will be using on everything I can that is my primary headset. Now, concerning the wireless, it is more expensive and does sound a bit worse, but it's still pretty great, and the convenience it provides is just unmatched. My USB 2 lives on my Super. I'd love to use it with my headphones for flat gaming, but it's way too much of a hassle to go back and forth between this and my regular headset. The wireless, though, I can just effortlessly move this across multiple headsets. I put it on, I take it off, done. It's actually kind of funny, given I have wireless headphones too, that when I put these together, I'm able to just walk into another room several places away from my PC, and I can still have conversations with others, which is kind of funny. Overall, it's just really nice and seamless. It does run off battery, yes, so that's an extra thing to keep track of, but it's so long I don't think most people are going to be bothered by it. Plus, you can use it on any headset without issue. So, given that, I'd say really depends on your preferences and your setup. USB 2 is the best, but more of a pain to set up and limited in the headsets you can make it work with. Whereas the wireless is more expensive and not quite as good on audio, but it's effortless with universal compatibility versus the USB 2. I do know Antlion is working on a Modmic wireless too, but it's not got a firm ETA other than maybe vague kind of end of year 2025, and it has been delayed before, so I probably wouldn't hang up on waiting for that if you are in the market to find something to improve your VR audio. But maybe we will get USB 2 audio quality on wireless someday. That'd be really nice. And there is the video. This is my first time doing an audio focus review, so a bit different from the norm, and I'm kind of figuring out what exactly how I want to present all these. So if you got some suggestions for future reviews, please leave them in the comments. As long as it doesn't involve me buying a very expensive $100 equipment just for the sake of testing. If you made it to the end here, thank you for watching. Consider subscribing to see what I do next. If not, well, thanks for sticking around till the end anyway, and maybe I'll see you again sometime in the recommendeds. Later.